The first duty of government is to protect our rights.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government in what we were tasked to do.
In the Idaho Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, we have a right to life, we have a right to defend life.
This legislation is centered on meeting the needs of Idaho families.
And we have no way to maintain control over the spending of this program, and it will be a disaster for this state long term.
But we have a whole gamut of kids whose parents would like to do something for them and they cannot.
The courts have long held that our ability to transfer title on real property benefits society as a whole.
This is simply about putting it out of reach of young, innocent, vulnerable children and making our libraries and schools a safe place for them to go.
And I am increasingly frustrated that we cannot stop ourselves from drinking at the public trough.
He's sounding the alarm. He's saying if we don't address these issues, we potentially might have greater problems moving forward.
I feel like we're back to an unappointed board that gets to decide who is essential and who is non-essential.
If I was looking at a business and I was looking at these figures, there would be heads rolling because this is unsustainable.
We're supposed to be bottom-up government. We're supposed to be representing my citizens' ideas and your citizens' ideas, and we're supposed to be discussing them and debating them to come to a conclusion.
And for me, it's about a couple things. It's about food security, it's about national security, and it's about preserving American exceptionalism.
The First Amendment and our freedom of religion, freedom of speech are our first liberties. They are so important. We don't have the rest without them.
Okay, good morning, everybody. April 1st, 2024. Matt Edwards here. Welcome to Idaho Signal. We are live on the air, and it is April 1st, which means March is over. And usually when March is over, the legislative session is over. But we are in extra innings. We are in bonus time. We are in overtime as the Idaho legislature moves into another week, the first week of April here, as they try to tie things up and go home. Today, however, the schedule is clear. They are off. So there's no Senate on the House floor today. There's no House on the House floor today, and the committees are dark. But there was a lot of action on Friday that we want to share with you. In fact, there was also another bill that went through committee about a week or so ago that hopefully will get its day on the floor in the House and Senate that we wanted to cover. I hope you had a blessed Easter weekend. I know my family did, and I think that there was a lot of controversy over the weekend as the Biden administration declared March 31st as Trans Awareness Day, Transgender Awareness Day, as if we weren't aware of transgenders in our society. Now, of course, I understand that he's been doing this Trans Awareness Day on March 31st. He's been declaring this a day of awareness for a few years now, and March 31st has been this day forever. But I remember I recall seeing a graphic going around showing how many days throughout the year there are all sorts of commemoration of these people's identity and such. So anyway, once again, that kind of stuff is just a distraction, and we're just going to stay focused on the signal and what is going on. So with that, let's dive into what happened yesterday. On Friday, as we were going into the weekend, the House debated House Bill 753, which, as we discussed, because I believe it passed on the air. Were we on the air when this was going on? And I think so. But regardless, we've got a lot of clips lined up because the debates here are fascinating, very fascinating. Because if you recall, one of the big issues, obviously the biggest issue facing our nation right now, is this unfettered invasion happening at the southern border. We also highlighted, we watched some of the hearing. We also highlighted that the northern border isn't safe from illegal crossings. We had an article that we were highlighting about some folks over in Vermont that were very distraught at what was going on their side of the country. But this bill here would make being in this country illegal here in Idaho. And so if law enforcement were to encounter an illegal alien, they could be charged and deported or given the choice of deportation. There's a lot of nuances in this bill that are fascinating to me. But we want to show you some clips. We want to get you up to speed on what this bill does and listen to some of the arguments that were being put forth. So I'm going to walk you through this, but let's let Representative Jaron Crane give us a little bit, or actually, this might be his whole debate. It's about a few minutes here of Representative Jaron Crane presenting this bill to the body.
Here is another key component to us protecting and defending the people of Idaho, and that is protecting the very borders of our state. The question that this legislation asks is, what do we do when the federal government fails in its duty and responsibility to protect this nation and specifically the state of Idaho? Article 1, Section 10 gives us the right as a sovereign state to take care of our own borders and our own land. These are our people, this is our land, and it's our duty and job to protect it, given right there in Article 1, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution. Yesterday, Senate Joint Memorial 102, carried by the good gentleman from District 31, passed this body 62-5. That's an outstanding rate that we passed that bill by. This is a trailer bill to that, in which we are going a step farther. We are giving law enforcement key tools that it needs in order to go ahead and look into this issue locally. Law enforcement will be able to fingerprint and document these illegal immigrants as they commit a crime here in the state of Idaho. Currently, they can't do that. I had a colleague yesterday that I went to coffee with, and he said, there's an issue here in Idaho with our law enforcement that they can't document these people. This opens that up, that they can do that. They will have the ability to fingerprint and document them when they commit a crime. The judges are going to be able to issue an order for them to return to their foreign nation. When they make an arrest, and I'm going to use a hypothetical here, but there's a member in this body who recently had his brother was hit in a car accident a couple of weeks ago by an illegal immigrant. If he chooses to speak to that, I'll let him do that. But what happens in that instance when the law enforcement takes place and they get on scene of the accident, this person's not documented. They have no way to produce an identification. They have no way to run a background check and find out who this person is. How do we even process this person when they're not a legal person here in the United States? This gives law enforcement the ability to build a record on a person. A first-time offense for them is going to be a misdemeanor. A second-time offense is going to be a felony. What the judge is going to have the option to do is request, would you like to be sent back to your country of origin? If they choose to stay here, they're rolling the dice, because the very next time that they get picked up for a crime in the state of Idaho, it's a felony. So we're giving law enforcement, judges, what they need in order to document, process, and get these people back to where they need to go. Recent reports from Fox News have shown that 20,000 Chinese have come into this country that are linked to the CCP. 20,000. We have a northern border problem and we have a southern border problem. Idaho touches Canada. So when you look at this, it is a border issue. We are a border state. There are people coming in the northern border of Idaho, and there's people that are coming here in the southern border, that route as well. Over 20,000. It was on Fox News recently that these people have been seen in the state of Idaho practicing weapons training. You can go look it up on Fox News. It's incredible. And that was they have ties to the CCP. A lot of these people that are coming here are not coming here with the cleanest of records. Okay? So it's important that we address that. There's provisions in here that if these people are granted, if you look on page 1, line 35, it's an affirmative defense for them if they're here legally. There is programs in place where they can come here and work as migrant workers. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about people flooding the state of Idaho and this country illegally. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I ask for your green light.
All right, pretty succinct explanation there of the bill. And his final point there was interesting to point out that this is dealing with folks who are here illegally. If you're here on a work visa, no matter your opinion on that, this isn't going to affect you because you are documented. You're here legally when it pertains to having some sort of work visa. And I think that that's strikingly important because you'll see a few of these folks once again stand up and defend that this is some sort of attack on workers who are working in the agricultural industry. And just a preview of what you'll see here as we move on. But to put a finer point on this issue, Representative Crane mentioned how another legislator is affected by this, and he spoke about a car accident that had happened. Representative Palmer appears to be that person he was speaking of, and so Representative Palmer stood up to share his thoughts on this bill.
We come here to do laws every day, and what I'm hearing from certain members of this group today are, we only do those laws to apply to American citizens. That seems way out of step to me. This is a country of rules and laws that we should be going by. All this bill does is help a way to enforce our laws for everyone that is in this country, citizen or not. Didn't really want to debate on this bill for obvious reasons. We talk about heroes a lot in this body, and I don't take that word lightly. I'm pretty careful with it, but I have a hero. I'll tell you a quick story about him. Meanwhile, he sits at home right now on his back. He's fought in 4 wars for everyone in here to keep people out of this country that come here to hurt us. And a couple weeks ago, driving home, and by the way, in those 4 wars, the military, the United States government, our taxpayers paid for his education. And so now what he does is he teaches, and he doesn't charge. So he's driving home a couple weeks ago, and an undocumented person without a driver's license, not driving his own vehicle, without insurance, speeding, runs a stop sign and broadsides him, breaks his neck, breaks his back, breaks his shoulders, gives him a concussion. This is a 70-year-old man we're dealing with here. And he's at home now. Why we're arguing whether or not our laws apply to everyone in this country. This bill is about law and order, not everything else. We have great farmers. We have great dairymen. They've been put into a situation by the federal government. Let's help them by giving them one more tool, our local law enforcement, to try and offset this a little bit. That's all it is. It's no one going after those farmers or those dairymen. Some of that may happen, but let's at least give a little bit to law enforcement and let them try to do the job that we ask them to do over and over and over. Please support this bill.
Stunning. Absolutely stunning. And, if you watch the national news, you know that this type of, thankfully, his brother survived, but we've heard stories of folks that aren't so lucky. And folks that are also, being murdered in horrific manner by folks, by these horrible people coming across the border that mean to do us harm. So, like he said there at the end of that clip, this is just another tool for law enforcement to use when they encounter somebody who should not be here, who needs to come. They need to come in a legal manner. And incredible testimony there. Okay, so as we move through these debates here, Representative Josh Tanner out of District 14 offered these remarks.
What's frustrating to me is we are a country of law and order, and we set what the crimes are going to be. We enforce what the crimes are going to be. But in the end, we are a country of law and orders. That's one of the reasons when you look at the United States compared to a lot of other countries is what's made us where we are. Is we've had good laws, we've enforced those laws, and when we talk about immigration, I mean, we are a country where we are a country of immigrants. We still take in more immigrants than any other country out there, legally. They're still immigrants, but we are taking them in legally. What we are, and when you get pulled over, when you get stopped, you have paperwork, you have a visa, you have documentation at that point in time. But what we're seeing now is we're seeing a mass flux in illegal immigration. And just you look at the state of Idaho, for instance, we have over 2 million, or we have under 2 million people that live in the state of Idaho. Well, that's more than what happened last year, what came across the border. They're estimating over 3 million people coming across the border this year. That is a crime in our country. And if we are a country of law and order, that is a problem, no matter how we look at it. Now, I am all for trying to get people to come to our country, that want to come to our country, that want to have the American dream. I think it's great. I think it's admirable for us to actually be able to go do an offer. But if we cannot figure out a way to actually stem the illegal side and to actually have something where we can actually enforce the laws that are out there and give the officers here within the state the ability to actually do something, I don't know what we're doing, because we're now saying we're not going to follow the laws. We're just throwing those to the wind. And if we throw those to the wind, what else are we going to throw? So this isn't a fight of workforce, or this isn't a fight of anything else. This is a fight of law and order, and we have people committing crimes, and we need to make sure that those crimes are actually getting accounted justly. So with that, I'd recommend green light. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Further debate on the motion.
Okay. Fantastic. Okay, so now you understand what the issue is here, right? There seems to be, a lot of times people can stand up and they miss the forest for the trees, right? They get focused on the minutia and kind of lose sight of the big picture. Then you have those who stand up and totally miss the forest and the trees for squirrels, right? These distractions, or woodpeckers, these nuisance, these horrible distractive nuisance, and leave it to a few folks on the Democrat side of the aisle, as well as some of their compadres who like to register as Republicans, to do those things and to bring up interesting, to say the least, arguments here. Representative Lauren Necochea, Democrat out of Boise, opened up her debate. At first, she opened up, and we'll hear someone else argue this later. But so we're going to cut into her debate a little bit later. But her main argument that she opened up in the beginning with was that there's a similar legislation like this that has passed in Texas, that has passed in Arizona, and possibly some other states that are currently being challenged in the court system right now. And because of that, Idaho should stay out of it completely. We shouldn't do this because we're seeing these same laws being challenged in the courts, and we're going to lose, and it's going to cost us a lot of money to defend these new laws that we're passing. So we'll hear some pushback on that in a moment, but let's pick up Representative Necochea's argument on a few other points that really I don't think she's too worried about Idaho having to defend laws in court as much as she's worried about some of the next arguments that she makes here.
If it were enforceable, however, if we could do this, it's still a very bad idea. I can't think of anything that would tank our economy faster than pushing out the unauthorized immigrants that we have in our state. We know there are about 35,000, and they're here. They're here. They're working. They are the backbone of a lot of our industries, and our economy would tank without them. So it doesn't seem like a very good idea from that perspective, generally as a state, but I also think particularly of rural Idaho. I think a lot of rural Idaho towns, if you go to their main street and chase away all the immigrants, there's just not much left. The vibrancy is really at risk. Third, this feels cruel to me. Pushing these people away means businesses lose workers, but also the people of Idaho lose friends and neighbors. I bet we have kids and grandkids here who would lose classmates. There are a lot of families with mixed immigration status. This means kids lose a parent and a wage earner who gets deported, leaving the other parent breaking apart a traditional family, which I know this body supports. So that's not something we want to do to our kids. This is bad for our ability to fight crime and protect public safety in our communities. We know immigrant communities are already more vulnerable, more susceptible to be victims of crime because they're less likely to report the crimes to law enforcement because they're scared of deportation and things like this. Now we're just putting an even bigger target on our immigrant communities because you've made just a complete, it's not just risky for them to go to law enforcement, it spells disaster for them to go to law enforcement and try to report domestic violence, burglary, assault, rape, any type of crime. This is so wrong-headed. Our business community is asking us not to do this. I urge you, I plead you, please give this your red light.
I mean, talk about grasping at every heartstring that she can. Are you kidding me? And then using the traditional family. These are traditional families. You're going to be breaking up traditional families. Are you kidding me? I don't know how many traditional families out there in Idaho send their most the young virile men off to foreign countries to go in illegally and send all that money back. Is that what traditional families do? Incredible. And then of course she's worried about they're less likely to report a crime because then their own crimes would be found out. However, we just got through listening to the crime of illegal drunk driving that happened to your colleague in there. I mean, these people, it's incredible. I also want you to take note here. If you're keeping score at home, I want you to take note here. She mentioned and acquiesced the fact that there are 35,000 illegal immigrants in Idaho. I believe that's the number that we've heard throughout this session. 35,000 in Idaho. And that these people are the backbone of Idaho. How does that make you feel, folks? How does that make you feel? Democrat Nikachia believes that the 35,000 illegal immigrants in Idaho are the backbone of Idaho. Not you. Not you. Not the fifth or sixth generations of Idahoans. But these folks. These folks are the backbone of Idaho. Incredible. Incredible. All right. Not to be outdone. Do we need to take a break? No. Here's what we'll do. We're gonna roll this footage. We'll list this. We're gonna roll this footage into the break. How about that? This is Representative Greg Lanting. He has a few questions for Representative Crane, and then he just sort of, what district? Greg Lanting, Twin Falls. Folks, if you are watching us here from Twin Falls, Idaho, you need to sit back and watch who is representing you here in Boise. And then ask yourself, is this the best you can do? Is this the best you can do, Twin Falls? Representative Greg Lanting.
Note, I can't see it in there, but I was wondering if it was included in your other numbers. The cost of defending this in the courts, because obviously we've saw what's happened with Texas is they're putting forth funds for defending the courts. Is that part of your fiscal note, or is that going to be something that comes later?
Jump 12.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good gentleman from
25.
25. That is already in Idaho statute right now. We already have monies appropriated for any of our legislation that needs to go and get defended in court. So it's already in existing statute in Idaho.
Possibly one more question.
You're only going to do one.
I'm sorry. His answer caused me to have another question. I apologize.
Gentleman from 12 yield to another question.
If it helps him vote for the bill, not his debate.
Gentleman 25.
Do we have an estimate of what that's going to cost to what I assume he's referring to the Constitutional Defense Fund? How much will this bill cost to the Constitutional Defense Fund? Do you have an estimate, or is just assuming that it will cover it?
Gentleman from 12.
Again, the defense fund is already set up and established in Idaho statute, so there's plenty of money there should this need to be tried in court. But I believe it to be constitutionally sound, and I think we're going to be just fine. So 0.
Gentleman 25.
To debate the bill, sir.
Gentleman has the floor.
Different than most of our issues that come up here, how I'm going to vote has went back and forth about 3 times already. I mean, amazingly, because I'm along with the good gentleman from 27, I believe, I worry about the time we took to bring this bill forward. I mean, he said the 11th hour. I think we're at the 11th hour and 59th minute of this session, and we're considering a bill that has a lot of people we needed to talk to. I needed to talk to county commissioners. I needed to talk to my county sheriff. I needed to talk to the ag in my part of the state. And then I had that thought process, and then the good gentleman from 11 got up and talked about his thoughts on the matter. And sorry, but my suspender is sneaking down on me there. Apologize, miss. And that sounds good. That part of it I agree with, that we do things. So I still back to the whether we're a deliberative body or not. I heard about this bill yesterday sometime during the day, and I just didn't have enough time to do the due diligence that I need to feel like I'm making an informed decision here. Why didn't we have this 3 weeks ago? Think about Senate Joint Memorial 102. That's set on the 3rd reading calendar for almost 2 weeks. And we had plenty of time to research it and see what we thought it would do and different things. This is the one that one probably could have been voted on in 2 days. This one's the one that needed to be on there for a week or two. So we think. And also, I'm really getting concerned about this body passing legislation that really hasn't had a proper hearing so all the people involved in it can come and state their. All right, we're going to have an objection that there was a proper hearing.
Mr. Speaker.
I don't think the people that I would want to.
Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman 13.
I object.
Let's take your objection.
We had a print hearing on this bill, an introduction hearing on this bill. We had a full hearing in House State Affairs on this bill. So for the gentleman, I don't know if he was aware that this was duly noted and went through the process just like any other bill.
Gentleman 25, continue.
I agree with the good gentleman from 13 that those two processes occurred, but I still had people that I called this morning had never heard of the bill because they didn't have the normal time process between the print hearing and the hearing, the regular hearing, to have a chance to study the bill, get here to testify on it. I still think it was hurried. Now, whether the proper steps were taken, I will agree to that, but I still don't think the proper things. And I say all this, and I may still vote yes, because like I said, I've went back and forth several times on this. My good running mate from 25, after he got done speaking, I was ready to vote no. After my good person from 11 spoke, I was ready to vote yes. So it makes me think that maybe this bill isn't ready for prime time. If I can go back and forth 3 times in the study of this debate, maybe there are a lot of people that need to weigh in and didn't get a chance to. And somebody else is probably going to talk me in a different direction. And that's good because I'm learning as we're going today. Probably things I wished I could have learned last week before we voted today. Thank you.
Spending this money surplus, which is not a surplus, it's an overcharging of the taxpayers.
There's a saying in Idaho, Esto perpetua. It is forever. But the truth is, nothing lasts forever. Not without a fight. The Gem State is ours to fight for. It is ours to win. For life and liberty. For honesty and integrity. We ride together.
Okay, welcome back. Idaho Signal is broadcasting today, April 1, 2024, and we are at the top of the hour. We just hit the top of the hour. We're cruising along here. Thank you for joining us. We went to break after listening to Representative Greg Lanting out of Twin Falls. And folks, I'm telling you, in Twin Falls, if you're in Twin, oh boy, you got a lot of work to do out there. Okay, to sort of refute some of the argument there about not having enough time to go over the bill and all of this stuff. We hear this argument a lot, and Representative Bruce Skog addressed this in his debate, which we found very good. So let's roll this clip here with Representative Bruce Skog.
Be straight. This bill targets criminals who happen to also be illegals. It's not after every illegal immigrant. We were asked by the Kootenai County Sheriff, he used the word begging, that we pass this bill in committee. So that gives him the tools to deal with all of the illegal immigrants that are in his jails that he has to deal with. And he went into that quite some bit. So we have that. And again, this bill was not rushed any more than any other bill. I was talking with a couple of lobbyists this morning who were recalling a bill that went from writing it to conclusion within 6 hours in the Senate. And we've seen some bills here, and I made similar complaints to the gentleman from 25 at the end of session that go by very quickly. I only made that argument if I didn't like the bill. If I liked the bill, I was all for it going fast. Just truth in advertising there. But right now, our nation is under a real invasion, a de facto invasion. And the gentleman on the second floor has done what he can within his powers to help stem that by sending our state police down to Texas to help. He's gone to the border himself. He's looking, I don't know what he thinks of this bill, the gentleman on the second floor, but let's give him some statutory tools. Let's give the law enforcement some statutory tools that they are asking for specifically to help them deal with the criminals who also happen to be illegal immigrants, illegal aliens, because that's happening. They can't get them into the system, just like the good gentleman from 11 mentioned. That's practical law enforcement from a gentleman in our body. So let me look at my notes. Also, just received a phone call from a former immigration officer out of Texas who also asked that we give these tools to his law enforcement friends. He went through the details of how people come in illegally, go straight to Houston, buy their social security card, buy a driver's license, buy all the fake ID, and then disperse out throughout the country. He said, this is a good tool. And I don't know the man, but he called me this morning and said, please pass this, Idaho. And he now is a resident of Middleton, Idaho. So I'd ask for your green light respectfully. Thank you.
Okay, there it is. Representative Skog referencing some of the arguments that Lanting was made there. Okay, I want to bring it back to some more opposing arguments that seem to contradict and again, it's getting people frustrated because, again, missing the forest for the trees here. We are understanding that we are what the Idaho legislature, what these conservatives in the Idaho legislature are trying to do is deal with some aspect that they can take on whatever responsibilities they can to address the invasion at the border. And they've tried to send House Joint Memorial 11, which Representative Dale Hawkins tried to get through, which would have sent a message to Congress, to our own delegation there, to say impeach Joe Biden. It was very harsh language in order to get the border invasion under control. Senate Joint Memorial, which was referred to, was a weaker version of that really dealt with immigration reform in terms of allowing more workers, make it easier for workers to come to this state. And then, of course, the Border Compact bill, which has also failed to make its way through the legislature. And this would have allowed Idaho to join forces with states like Texas or Montana or Arizona or any other states that wanted to work together, give some more authority to the governor in order to protect our borders. So all of these things is the context in which this bill is coming forth. However, there still seems to be this disconnect between whether or not there are illegal aliens in this country working, and whether they are here, whether they're being confused with those who are here legally working. And so they're using this argument, which is quite frustrating to see. And we're going to see a little bit of that here with Representative Stephanie Mickelson. Actually, you know what, guys? Let's swap this real quick. Let's bring up Representative Megan Blanksma, if we're good with that. Yeah, let's bring up Representative Megan Blanksma, who took this particular issue head on. So let's watch this.
Floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a farmer, I do not appreciate the implication that we are hiring illegal labor. We are not. There is a visa program for labor that we participate in, and many farmers and ranchers participate in. So as we keep going down this road and this debate, I just want it very clear that there are, more often than not, those of us that follow the law and do not hire illegal labor. What we do is we hire under an H-2A visa, and if you want to know about the program, I can tell you about it. It's a difficult program to comply with. It is expensive, but we do it because we follow the law. And thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the time.
Okay. Again, it's like you can show people facts. You can have people admit that there are. We just heard 35,000 illegal immigrants in Idaho. What are they doing? Are they just living under a bridge, not doing anything? No, they're working. We just heard it. In fact, if you go back in time, we had the official spokesperson of the Dairymen's Association. Do you remember this clip? Let's watch this.
So the best way I can answer that for you, Representative Scott, sorry, Mr. Chairman, best way I can answer that for you is ICE does I-9 audits. And so all of our employees fill out an I-9. So when ICE has come on dairies in the state of Idaho and have done an I-9 audit, roughly 70% of our employees will not cover that I-9 audit. So that employer has a choice. You either got to get the correct information if it's available, or you cannot keep that employee hired. And so I would tell you 90%, no, somewhere around 70%. I mean, we're always trying to be straightforward and honest about this, because when I go to, I'll give you the best example I possibly can give you. When we're in DC lobbying on immigration and need for reform, I give them the same numbers I just gave you. Congressman Labrador was up north, and he made a statement, and the statement was that 90% of the labor force in Idaho was on dairies was not legal, which obviously I've given you that 90% number. There was an AP reporter in that room, and I got a call almost instantly. He says, "Will you confirm what Senator or Congressman Labrador just said?" And you take a breath, and you have told Congressman Labrador all the facts. And I said, "Well, I think his numbers are a little high. I'll put it at 70%. And that's what I'll tell you. I think it's about 70% based on the data we have.
Folks, come on. 70% of the dairy workers. 70%. And listen to this. They fill out fake I-9 forms. They have fake documentation to get employed here. And the employer just accepts them knowing this number. I mean, they know that the likelihood 7 out of 10. Some claim 9 out of 10, right? But 7 out of 10 times, this person who's filling out your paperwork is going to be fake. But they turn a blind eye, right? They aid and abet an illegal alien to work in the dairy operations for whatever reason. Because Americans, these are jobs Americans won't do, right? It's because they're obsessed with cheap labor, right? There's a way. There is a way to entice Americans to do these jobs. There is a way. We're not going to get into that. But what we're going to highlight, though, is that when Representative Megan Blanksma stands up and says, "We are not hiring illegals," I mean, maybe she's just speaking like personally. She's like, "I'm just a farmer. I don't hire illegals." Well, that's fine, Megan, but that's not what we're talking about here. You are here representing your district, District 8, one of the largest districts in Idaho, from Mountain Home all the way up to McCall. I mean, that's a huge area. Probably a few dairy farms in there. I don't know. I don't know if they're concentrated in one specific area. But if you're covering Mountain Home all the way up to McCall and all the way out to Custer County and all that stuff, I'm pretty sure there's a dairy farm in there somewhere where 7 out of 10, possibly 9 out of 10 of those workers are illegal. So I don't know why these people don't pay attention to what other people are talking about. It's bizarre. Okay. We got to get to this Mickelson clip because this was incredible. So Stephanie Mickelson, another defender of cheap labor, also likes to push the same argument. These people are not illegal. It cost me all this money to do this, that, and the other thing. Okay. Let's watch this clip.
For a comment.
The lady has the floor to debate the motion.
I think everybody needs to be aware that when we keep going down this road of attacking illegal immigrants, and you're mainly attacking Hispanics in this case, I think you need to remember that every food processor, probably in this state, from the large food processors to the small ones, from your small construction companies to your hospitality industries, somewhere in all of those industries that serve you, all of us. So if you guys think that you haven't been touched by an illegal immigrant's hands in some way through either your traveling or your food, you're kidding yourselves. So to take such a stand to beat up and denigrate a population that brings value.
I object, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, good lady. I think denigrate and stuff, I don't think that's the intention of this bill, so continue.
No one is
lady.
denigrating a population.
Okay, that's fine. I'll continue on.
Yeah, watch it.
Come on, guys.
Mr. Speaker.
Come on. Stop. Good gentleman, 13.
Could you put the House at ease?
Yeah, let's calm down a little bit. House meetings for 1 minute.
Yeah. Woohoo! Loosen that tie, Mike. Loosen that tie. Boy. Okay. You know, Stephanie Mickelson sounds more and more like a Democrat every day. Standing up, you know, the more we denigrate illegal aliens, these are Hispanics. What are you talking about? None of that is, all that stuff is irrelevant. I don't care if they're Hispanic, if they're Chinese, if they're Japanese, Vietnamese, Thai. I don't care. You want to come to this country, you do so legally. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. So the House went at ease after Representative Scott. Boy, I mean, was that a thug life moment? I think I saw somebody do the thug life moment with Representative Scott there with the watch it. Which, you know, I mean, look, we've been watching, you guys we've been watching this, and this is the end of session. Tensions are getting really, really high, and this particular issue is mind-boggling because these Republicans keep standing up, sounding like Democrats, and defending illegal aliens being here, or they lie and ignore, or they just completely they're in a state of denial. We just heard 70% of the dairy workers, right, are illegals. This is an issue. This is a problem. Okay. After they went at ease, they came back, and Speaker Moyle gave the floor back to Stephanie Mickelson to finish her remarks. So we'll listen to that and let her keep digging her grave here.
Sorry, I hit that a little harder too. House will be back in order, and we'll continue with the debate. And the Speaker will take a personal privilege, and when we state an objection, I will do a better job of asking you to tell us what your objection is. So we'll try to keep it under control. And I understand that sometimes we get these issues that are real tense, and there's some feelings there, but let's try to talk about the bill and not about each other, because we all are friends. Get out of this together, but when we make it personal, it makes it harder on all of us. So I apologize on my end for not asking for the declaration. I encourage you guys to keep the debate civil, and we will return to you, good lady from 32.
Mr. Speaker and this good body, I think that we just have to think about foreign-born, non-domestic workforce, that we have people here that provide great value to our communities and to our society, and that we need to be really careful in the laws that we're passing to make sure that they're good laws, that we can live with them from years from now. and that we think about what message we are sending from this body.
Thank you, Lays. Further debate on the motion.
The message is, if you commit a crime, you will be held accountable. What is the issue with that, Stephanie? What is the issue with that? Representative Mickelson, what is the issue with holding people accountable? Rhetorical, of course. Okay. Okay. Wow. The Bruce, was it, we swapped Bruce, we wanted to go to Brent Crane. Yeah, Brent Crane. So we want to bring it home. We want to land this ship home because, and tell you how this bill turned out. But Representative Brent Crane ties it all in nicely, as well as Representative Hawkins. So let's listen. Who like Representative Hawkins? I mean, when the man stands up, it's incredible. But let's listen to Representative Brent Crane here. Then we'll move on.
Mr. Speaker and members of the body, I was intrigued by my good colleague from District 26 who said that Congress has failed to act since 1986. It's over 30 years. Let's not be Congress. If Congress is not going to act, the laboratories of democracies called the states can act. We have the ability today to solve a problem. I would suspect that if you talk to your citizens in your district, this will be in the top 3 issues in every district in the state of Idaho: immigration. To say this is rushed, we've known about this problem for years. Congress has wrestled with the problem for over 30 years. And now you have an opportunity. You going to stand with making sure that the laws of the state of Idaho are enforced and those that violate those laws? Or are you going to tuck tail and run? We have an opportunity here, Mr. Speaker, to solve the problem, to draw a definitive line in the sand with regards to illegal immigration. And I, for one, want to be able to go back to my constituents and say, I heard you. I am not going to be like a member of Congress who continues to kick the can down the road. And it's both parties at fault, Mr. Speaker. Both parties have failed to act. And because both parties are failing to act, the states are now having to take up these issues and act. This is a very real problem. This is a solution to that problem. Mr. Speaker, I'd ask for your green light.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Our federal government has failed and the states are taking control. There should be no issue with that. There should be no issue with that. Well put. Okay, Representative Hawkins, let's land this plane here.
This piece of legislation, if we were going to argue it about its timeliness, I guess we could go down the calendar and rid the rest of the calendar of the bills that came up after this one, and we could just go home right now. But that's not how this body works. We have a print hearing, we have a hearing, and now it's on the floor. The thing that I find confusing is this bill keeps getting drug into agriculture, over here, over there, hotels, your workers. This bill is about giving law enforcement, which we've wrestled with this before in other issues, the tools they need to do their job properly. So I would suggest if we want to be a body that backs the blue, we give it a green light. Thank you.
Okay, so there it was. When we went to the vote, we can bring it up alongside here. When the vote tally happened, there was a lot of green lights, there. Even folks that stood up to debate against the bill in the Republican Party voted for it. For instance, at the last second there, Representative Mickelson voted yes on the bill. So the rest of the bill was filled with a few Republicans and most of the rest of the Democrats voting against it. So this bill seemingly rushed through, which of course it was on a fast track, and that's what this body does. When there's certain people, certain power players, and certain things that are going on, they will send bills on a fast track to get it done. So you could hate it, you could like it. It all depends on the bill, right? So here it is. 753 has passed the House, and it will be heard over on the Senate this week, possibly as early tomorrow in the Senate hearing. We'll keep tabs on that there. Okay, folks, we will take a short break, and when we come back, we'll wrap up some other clips and some other bills that were making it through the legislature. So we'll be right back.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government and what we were tasked to do.
The dictionary defines a pledge as something that you give as a sign that you'll keep a promise. As Idahoans, that's what we're looking for in our elected leaders. A sign that they'll keep their word. Talk is cheap, and so are political promises, hidden agendas, and special interests. This is why we created the Citizens Alliance of Idaho Pledge, affirming the values Idahoans have been living by for over 100 years, inspired by the only two documents everyone has agreed to live by. So when an Idaho legislator signs our pledge, inviting voters to publicly hold them accountable, that's what we call political integrity. The pledge restores trust and honesty between voters and their legislators. It means protecting our shared values and ensuring your voice is heard in Boise. And that is priceless. Thank your legislator for having the political courage to sign the Citizens Alliance of Idaho Pledge. And if they haven't, it's time to ask why.
All right, folks, welcome back. In the final minutes here, I just want to cover a couple of bills that are going through, and just to be aware, you know, if you want to make sure that bill 753 gets a hearing, you've got to pay attention to where it lands. We will follow us on our social media channels, and we'll let you know if that bill shows up somewhere, so that way you can give a call or you can send an email. But the first thing that you can do always is just contact your own representative and senator and say, hey, I heard about this bill. Sounds like a good deal. I want you to know I support it, and I hope you do as well. So it's always good to keep in touch with your representatives and senator. All right, House Bill 670 was before a Senate committee. This bill had already passed the House, so it's got a clear sailing through the House, and it looks like to be on its way through the Senate. But it was very powerful testimony that happened in this committee, and I think we'll skip the intro to this bill. We'll go straight to the testimony. Representative Jordan Redmond out of Hayden in Kootenai County, District 3, and Senator Brian Lenny out of Nampa, District 13, teamed up on this bill that would bar the health insurance companies from reimbursements for this sort of health, what do they call it? Travel, tourism, surgery, tourism. I don't know what they call it. But basically, when people go to another country to get surgery, and this deals with organ transplants. And so this bill would bar health insurance companies from reimbursing if you are getting an organ transplant from a country that is known to do organ harvesting, a horrible criminal act where, especially in China, where they will literally kidnap or take prisoners of dissidents and put them under the knife to harvest their organs for surgery or for transplant. And Representative Redmond had invited a person who's directly connected to this sort of activity from a victim standpoint to testify, and we wanted to play that testimony here.
Yeah, so my name is Hui He. So I'm a Falun Gong practitioner. Excuse me. I'm a Falun Gong practitioner living in Boise. I'm sorry, my next is down here. I'm here to support House Bill 670. Yeah. Thank you. I would first like to thank the committee for considering this bill. Falun Gong practitioners have been the primary victims of forced organ harvesting in China. Falun Gong is an ancient self-cultivation practice aimed at improving the mind and body through the principles of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. Introduced to the public in 1992, it quickly gained popularity across China in the 1990s, offering tremendous health benefits. Within 7 years, government estimates indicated that nearly 100 million people were practicing Falun Gong. However, the Chinese Communist Party perceived the widespread popularity of Falun Gong as a threat to its political power and control. As a result, on July 20, 1999, the party started brutal persecution against Falun Gong. My mother, who is here with me today, so she is a retired university professor. She was detained in a brainwashing center for 5 months in 2008. She was locked in solitary confinement. So the guards put poison in her meal before they released her, so she almost died. So Idaho Statesman ran a feature story on her in 2015. Falun Gong practitioners who adhere to a daily exercise routine and abstain from drinking or smoking have become the primary targets for forced organ harvesting. Practitioners were detained and killed on demand for their organs, and later this gruesome practice extended to target Uyghurs and other vulnerable groups. But this issue doesn't only impact the victims. China has now emerged as a top destination for organ tourism. Patients from the U.S. have traveled to China for transplants due to shorter wait times. It is crucial to ensure that Idaho residents are not unknowingly complicit in the crime of forced organ harvesting. Last year, Texas made history by passing the first law in the U.S. specifically targeting forced organ harvesting. This groundbreaking legislation prohibits health insurance providers from covering expenses related to transplants conducted in China. Recently, both chambers of the Utah legislature unanimously passed a similar bill. We sincerely hope that H 670 will also follow suit and become law, as we eagerly await the end of forced organ harvesting. Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
I mean, what a powerful testimony there, and this Falun Gong is a religious movement in China that is a direct. It has a direct in contradiction to the Communist Party there, and so they're an oppressed people out there. But I look at this as a medical freedom, medical privacy issue, and it's when if you sit down and really think about this, let's say you're a parent and you have a child. Am I going into Gannon mode here? If you're a parent and you have a child, and the only way to have them get them survive is to have an organ transplant, I mean, I can't imagine somebody wanting an organ from somebody who was kidnapped and had a forced organ harvesting to take their heart or their liver or kidneys or whatever in order to save your own child. And it's one of those mental debates and heartbreaking stories that it's unfathomable. I don't have the words to kind of grapple with that, because the fact that this is even an option, that people would engage in this, is from a short-sighted standpoint. I understand. You're trying to save your loved one, but to do it at the expense of an innocent person is not what it's not what Western culture is about. It's not what our civilization over here is about. And we certainly want to make sure that Idaho joins forces with, apparently Texas has passed this law to say we will not engage in and allow our part to take part in that. So, all right, folks, we're nearing the end of the program. That bill ended up getting out of committee in the Senate side, so it will get a hearing on the Senate floor, hopefully before it ends, before the session ends. But you never know what happens. There are a lot of times session ends and bills never get heard, and then they got to come back around and go through this whole process once again. But hopefully they can fast track a lot of this stuff that's lingering here. That's really important. One of the bills that we were going to talk to you today was a Senate Joint Memorial 104, which would move suppressors for firearms, so-called silencers. It would move them from the more restricted categorization as restricted as a machine gun. It would remove it and just make it a simple firearm accessory that can be regulated that way. And so that passed out of committee, and will hopefully send a message to Congress to pass the Hearing Protection Act. So good news for folks in the suppression market. Thank you for joining us today. We will be back tomorrow. We'll try and stay on the air as much as possible this week to follow the ongoings that are happening. IdahoSignal.com is where you can support the program. Send us a message. Give us some love. Follow us on X, on Rumble, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Telegram. Anywhere you get video, we are most likely there. So thanks for joining us. Be careful on April Fool's Day out there. Don't get distracted. We didn't pull any jokes today. You saw a lot of jokes, but we didn't pull any. We'll see you tomorrow.
This bill, I think, it puts a stake in the ground that says we have a sovereign right to protect what's ours.